When I was about 14 years old, when I found my passion and I knew exactly what I wanted, is I wanted to be able to learn the skills necessary to make people feel better. And that's what I did. I did for the next 35, 40 years. I've spent developing my skills as a paramedic, as a clinician, and how to become a phenomenal healthcare provider. Every failure really is an opportunity for growth. Elon Musk is somebody who I admire as a leader today. If you think about what he has done in Neuralink or SpaceX, the Boring Company, all of these things are possible today because he was not afraid to fail.
You could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello everyone, today we're meeting Walter, the Dutch mentor. He is an author, a speaker, and advocate for personal development and mentorship. Hello Walter, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. I look forward to having a great conversation with you today.
Thank you. So let's start a conversation by exploring your personal journey of becoming the one that you are today. So what led you to discover your true passion in life? How did it start for you?
So, like anybody else, or really everybody's journey should be on a crooked road, right? Not a straight line. Of course, we had to explore lots of things. For me, it started when I was about 14 years old when I found my passion. And I was riding my bicycle in Holland, which, of course, is our favorite thing to do to commute from school to home. Sadly, an old farmer was crossing the road and was hit by a car. And I was the first on scene, and he laid in my arm with a lethal injury, and I felt hopeless. As he was dying in my arms, I said, "Listen, I want to help him. I want to save a life, but I don't know how. I didn't know what to do." And right at that moment in time, I knew exactly what I wanted. Is I wanted to be able to learn the skills necessary to make people feel better. And that's what I did. I did for the next, really 35, 40 years. I've spent developing my skills as a paramedic, as a clinician, and how to become a phenomenal healthcare provider. But along that journey, I learned that, listen, it's great to be a healthcare provider of taking care of one patient at a time, but it's even better if you become a leader of many so that you can actually impact thousands of lives. So that's how I started my journey, initially as a healthcare provider, then pivoted into leadership development and became an executive leader over a large academic hospital. And then from there, I pivoted again later on after, post-COVID to pursue my, really my passion at that point in time is spending full time coaching and mentoring those folks who are in entrepreneurial workspace or in healthcare or tech, where they are highly performing technical people, but have been put into leadership roles or starting business, but really don't know how to lead. And so really it's a combination of a lifetime of experiences that I bring to the table now. But it all started back when I was 14. And I love my journey that I have taken. There's certainly been lots of bumps in the road and things I've learned. But somebody gave me a great advice early on in life that said, fail fast and fail forward. And because of that insight, I really have truly enjoyed my journey.
Definitely. And you learn through types of attempts to succeed, or some people call failure, some people just like focus on the positive. What can you get out of that experience? Because everything presented to you for a reason, something that you're supposed to learn going through that experience. Is that what you think as well?
Without a doubt, right? It is that you can force your way through the top, or you can learn how to work with people and look for the right opportunities. Listen, my mindset is always my glass is half full, not half empty. So every failure really is an opportunity for growth, so I don't linger on the failures too long. Listen, Elon Musk is somebody who I admire as a leader today. If you think about what he has done in Neuralink or SpaceX or the Boring Company, all of these things are possible today because he was not afraid to fail. And one of the things that, piece of advice that he gives to every single leader is that we tend to shy away from fear, right? When we fear something, we tend to turn our heads and look away. And what he says is that we need to look fear straight in the eyes. And when one should do that, that anxiety goes away. And that really starts off with learning how to build confidence. And I teach people to lead with confident humility, right? And that is really the combination that if you want to become a phenomenal leader, is to lead with confident humility, right? And that requires you to have that mindset of fail fast, fail forward, and looking for opportunities, not looking or being drawn into the negative side of your thinking.
Right, and you mentioned this fear of failure, or something that people think they will encounter once they take that road. They kind of feel in their mind without even trying. And, with us really facing that challenge, right? Looking in the eye of fear, how can we overcome it? There is no other way but the way through it. And that's what scares people, really. So what would be, a practical tool, or maybe something that you applied in your life and how you teach other leaders to bring that awareness and to understand that, this is a way for me to go through that experience in order to get on the positive side of it?
Yeah, so it starts with self-awareness, right? So I tell every single one of my clients to put a big sign up in their office or on the computer by Mark Twain that 92% of the things we worry about never happen,
Mhm.
right? We spend an inordinate amount of time worrying about things that never happen. The short saying is too that whatever happened yesterday is gone, right? Even what happened 5 minutes ago, I cannot change. That's already in history. The same
Mhm.
token, I cannot spend too much time thinking and worrying about the future because that's also waste. So we need to learn to live in the now, right? Eckhart Tolle has a great book out, Living in the
Mhm.
Now. I highly
I
recommend it to
love it.
anybody. It is something that is highly relevant. So what it comes down to is this: self-awareness. First, you need to really understand what is your true passion in life, what is your true why in life. And then you need to start thinking about your own behaviors. Now, interesting enough, even though our brain is made out of two hemispheres, a left side and right side hemisphere,
Mhm.
and of course that's made for duplication purposes. But if you think about it in a more philosophical way, 2/3 of our brain is negative, and 1/3 of our brain is positive, meaning that the brain loves to hang on to negative and
Mhm.
it feeds itself, and that's why people get trapped into that. If you want to change that, you need to promote your positive brain, and your positive brain is like a muscle, like emotional intelligence, right? We're all born with some of it, but we need to learn to activate it and strengthen it. So you need to do daily exercises to promote your positive brain. So a couple of things I tell my mentees right out of the gate, right. First thing you do is you always make your bed in the morning. Chris,
Mhm.
why is that? Well, because if you set something up for success, you're most likely to not cut corners the rest of the day. That's one. Number two is that once you get up, I want you to sit on the side of the bed and get a notepad or get your telephone out and write down 5 words of gratitude. Again, it trains your brain to be in a positive frame of mind. And then throughout the day, you want to take small actions that continuously promote your positive brain. If you do that, when something happens, you're more likely to take my glass half full rather than half empty, right? If you
Mhm.
look at it from a half empty standpoint, anything that happens like a doomsday, and that is
Mhm.
draining. What we want to do is promote dopamine release in our brain, and we want to be able to get that into serotonin as long-term happiness and joy in the work that we do. But it all starts by raising self-awareness.
Definitely. And with us being present here and now, that's where the power of choice come into play. You can only choose what you're gonna focus on today, right now, because that propels it forward of what's gonna unfold for you. And like you mentioned, if you do daily practices by intentionally focusing on the positive and bringing the gratitude into your experiences, that's just how you wire yourself, being really like automatically going forward in that direction. So first, it becomes like a habit, right? And all habits take some time, but you have to stay consistent with it. And once you develop that habit, it's just your second nature, how we say, right? So, and also, like you mentioned, with starting your morning with the routine of making your bed and focusing on 5 grateful things in your life or people in your life. It's just how you do everything, anything, how you do everything, right? So every type of detail that you give your attention to, it matters, right? Again, you're making that choice intentionally. This is what I'm gonna do, and this is why. You know the reason behind it. Because sometimes people running around, you ask them a question, so why you do that? Why you engage in that activity? They don't even know. It's
Hmm.
just their habit of doing that. This is how I always done. This is how people taught me, and so forth. It's a programming that we need to, kind of like substitute with something more beneficial for ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. So I remind people that, when you ask people, why do you do this? Often they don't know, right? They don't quite understand the why behind it. So I go back to the simple things. I remind people that from 0 to about 6, 7 years old, we are just being told what to do, how to do, what to say, how to say it. That's how we pick up language. That's how we pick up accents. That's how we pick up, habits, good and bad habits. That's all about culture, right? That we are indoctrinated. Now, by the time we're 6, 7 years old, we're starting to have a little bit of an opinion. We're starting to push back a little bit, and we're starting to experiment on our own. Of course, it's all rooted in the things that we know, but now we're getting some exposure in school to other people's cultures and other people's way of doing it, or through reading. And out of those experiments, we take actions, and those actions deliver our results. Now, if you are locked in that you always go back to the same experiences and the same actions, you get the same results. So if you as a leader or an entrepreneur, or you want to go from a doing role, right, in a technical role to a leadership role, well, you have to start developing new habits and behaviors. In order to do that, we need to take new actions. And sometimes we need to even take a step back and get new experiences. Now, you can't go back to age 0 and build a culture. You are who you are, right? I am Dutch. There's certain Dutch cultures have been indoctrinated to me. Now, as an adult, I can select if I want to live them and show them or not, right? We have choices that we
Right.
make in life, but sometimes these are very much embedded. But that does not mean that I cannot develop new experiences and new actions that deliver new results. And that is really critically important in developing new habits and behaviors. So when you say it takes a little bit of time, it actually takes 90 to 120 days
Right.
of everyday actions. And I use a very simple example of that with my clients. Pick up your pen into your dominant hand and write down your first and last name. And that's normal and natural. It feels cool. I don't even have to think about it. It always looks the same way. Now, if I say, now take that same pen and put it into your non-dominant hand and write your first and last name, and you say, well, that's awkward, strange, it feels abnormal, it doesn't really look alike, it's kind of sloppy. Well, that's true. But now I'm telling you that you have to do that going forward. That's a regulatory change. Now you have to use that. So as I walk away, what is the normal behavior of everybody? Well, as soon as nobody is looking, I go back to using my dominant hand until
Right.
something happens and say, hey, I told you guys, right? But if you practice and you give people space, a safe space to practice their new habits on a daily basis for 15, 20 minutes over a 90 to 120-day period of time, you can really become ambidextrous. You can become efficient at any skill. So, and this holds true. I don't care if you want to play the piano, the guitar, or fly a helicopter. I can teach you anything 15 minutes a day, 90 to 120 days to get some level of competency out of it. The problem is human behavior. And I
Mhm.
go back to the gym. On December 31st, we say, I'm going to live a healthier life. I'm going to go and buy myself that subscription for the year.
Yes.
And I go 3 times the first week, twice the second week, once the third week. And then I might go back 4 more times throughout the whole entire year, right?
Hmm.
Because we don't give ourselves the time, we don't hold ourselves accountable in order to be able to live our best lives and develop these healthy habits and behaviors that lead to the outcomes that we desire. And that's very different for everybody.
Yes, and like you said, it has to be consistent, 90 to 120 days that we need to put in at least to see the result, because we expect an overnight success, this quick fix, and it's not the
Yeah.
case. It never is. And if you know starting anything that it will take a certain amount of time to see the result, and you have to be in the long run for it. You have to remind yourself every day why you're doing it and keep doing that and measure the result over time. This is how you're going to see the evidence for you showing that it's working, right? Otherwise, you're not going to see that evidence and you're going to say, oh, that's what I thought, right? If we're looking for a failing, result, we will find it. But if we coming in with a different mindset, knowing that success is inevitable, it's just a matter of time and my consistency, that's all you need. You take responsibility for what you want to get in life. And what you have right now, it's your own creation in a way, right? So
Yeah.
once we start taking that responsibility, knowing that we are in control of all the results that we want to get in our life, and it's up to us if we want to continue that and what kind of effort and focus we put into that certain endeavor or project. And that's what we're going to get out of it.
100%. So again, it all goes back to the why, right? Is that so? If I'm the leader who's going to, tell the team that they now have to all write with a non-dominant hand, if I just tell them and walk away, nobody will comply. But if I lead to context, if I provide real context behind it, and now show why this is important and how this is going to have an impact on the work that they're doing, that will either lead us to growth, the cost efficiency, revenue, transformation, quality, safety. But people need to buy into it, and then you give them that safety time. So measurement of your daily success, so it can be accumulative, and you can pick up when you're starting to slack up, so you can come back and recover from that. So maintaining measurement, a scorecard, is critically important to be able to build those new habits and behaviors. Now, once you have built those new habits, behaviors, it's not something else that you do, but it has now become part of who you are, right? That's what a
Right.
habit and behavior is. Then it is having regular checkbacks to make sure that you're still focused, you're still within that parameter of the upper or lower control limit of whatever it is that you're trying to do. Again, measurement is a vitally important piece of the puzzle to develop sustainable habits and behaviors.
Yes, definitely. And also we have to kind of acknowledge our small wins along the way,
Hmm.
not waiting for something big to happen and then we're disappointed, right? So we have certain expectation, we don't meet them, and that's where the gap is. But once we see this slow progress and those small wins and we acknowledge them and we kind of like self-motivated in that process, that's where we have the support along the way, right? We don't need external motivation. It has to come within. It has to help you move forward. But that will encourage you even more seeing that for yourself. But you have to become aware to see that and really like look for some kind of measurements to know that it's working. And also, I wanted to touch upon the leadership. I know this is a passion of yours to train leaders. And um, what would make a leader a good one? What are the qualities that a leader should possess in order to influence those who are following him, for their benefit?
Yeah. So I think the first thing to do as a good leader is to make a basic assessment. Is that you need to kind of raise awareness around what you think you are or who you think you are as a leader. And I would always encourage that by writing that down. What are the three things that you're really good at? What are the three blind spots you have? And that is your awareness. Then I would do a reflective awareness. You should be asking people around you, your bosses, your peers, your subordinates, your family members, and ask them what their perception of you is. And often there's a big difference between the perception and your reality. And of course, we don't manage my reality. You have to manage the perception of you. And often that is eye opening and we find gaps. Of course, those are opportunities for improvement. Now, We also have to realize that we have leaders that have grown up,
Mm.
amongst other leaders, and often you model your behavior after people that you have worked with. So from there, you get people who lead with ego and pride, or a sense of superiority, or codependence, or independence, or imposter syndrome, or insecurity. Those are all attributes non-desirable for highly effective leaders. But you need to be aware of those before you can improve upon those. The outcome that we seek is, again, learning to lead with confident humility. What that means is that you need to be self-aware. You need to really understand what is your differentiating strength. What is your superpower? You should make it more about them than about yourself, right? Outward thinking rather than inward thinking. You need to be aware of how you are leveraging wins, right? Creating these small wins, making these feel-good
Yeah.
moments with your team itself. EQ, emotional intelligence, is exceptionally important. Showing empathy, to your team itself. It's the combination of these attributes that will make you a better leader. And again, leadership is evolving, right? It is something that is not just I do one thing and now I'm the hero leader. This is something you need to continuously work on. These are all muscles that you need to maintain. So there are daily actions attached to all of these that you should be doing and measuring for effectiveness so they can become rock solid habits and behaviors. And of course, everybody's a little different, right? I used a quote from Sir Richard Branson, right, the CEO of Virgin Atlantic. He has this
Mm-hmm.
big billboard out, and he always says, "I treat everybody the way I want to be treated." Well, listen, I'm not Sir Richard Branson. I want Sir Richard Branson to treat me the way I want to be treated, right? So
Right.
as leaders, we have to learn to become a little bit more individualistic. So in other words, I need to get to know your intrinsic values. And once I truly understand them, I can incorporate it into my leadership and the way I communicate with you, or the way I challenge you, the way I grow you, the way I develop you, right? It all depends on the individual person. And that holds true in everything that we do in life. But yeah, those are the basics of understanding of what leadership is. And then coupled with that, and that's what part of my program is, that they need to understand the four key responsibilities. They have to relearn how to motivate and inspire people. And that includes having difficult conversations when you're managing people up or managing people out. And then the key is to develop meaningful partnerships with people. Now, we talk often about relationships, but a relationship is not the same as a partnership. A partnership is next level. And it requires, a behavioral alignment between two leaders in order to become synergistic or to become integrated. Now, often we'll find people who are dysfunctional or functional at best, right? And that is not driving high performance.
Yes, and also like you just mentioned, partnership and understanding basically the other party interest, or what is it that they looking for, what kind of needs they trying to fulfill on their own, and their perspective on
Mhm.
engaging in such a project together. So the communication is the key, emotional intelligence, understanding the other party, and being open, being receptive, listening is a skill. Also, you have to listen what the other person is saying and understanding from their point of view, and really like seeing from that different perspective allows you to connect on a deeper level and create something of value for everybody involved, really, because you also considering their interest and place.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say listening, right?
Yeah.
Listening is a poorly developed skill in most leaders. And the best way to gauge that for yourself is if you're listening to this, and next time you have a conversation with anybody, if your brain is already formulating a response before the other person is done talking, you are not a great listener, right? A good listener absorbs the information, processes the information,
Right.
then formulates a response, and then actually responds back. So it's a multimodal, a multi-step process. Now, this can be done very fluently. Now, I will tell you that men are worse than women at this. So men want to
Mhm.
fix everybody's problem, while women generally just, you don't need to fix my problems. I just want you to hear me. Right?
Right.
Just feel me for a moment, and then I can get through this. But and that is something that we need to, they need to go through the process of developing that vital skill.
Yes, listening and being open to really like hear people feedback. Sometimes we get defensive or we don't take criticism, but find a way to really like deliver a message in a way that it's not hurtful for another person, but at the same time you're trying to like help them in a way. So if you are willing to listen to this and really apply for a better result, so that would be a great way to engage in such a partnership. But also having the same vision, I believe it's what's important for a successful like union and in any like type of company or any project you work on. So you have to understand where it's going to, like what do you see it becoming? What is the vision for it? And
Hmm.
both of you perhaps have a different way of approaching it, but at least you know where you're going and what's the goal is.
Yeah, the North Star, as we refer to that, is the
Mm-hmm.
critical component, right? So if you're the executive leader of a company, and you can do this either with your board or with your senior management team, but it is vitally important, that you have a clear vision, that is aligned to your mission, and that is articulated in a way to the front line or to your subordinates that it can be understood by each person in the language that they understand, right? And you have to modify that depending on what level of the organization you're speaking to. But it also should be joined with measurement, right? If there's no measurement, then it is irrelevant, right? It's very difficult to be successful. It's going playing darts without knowing where the dartboard is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those things are critically important. So I use the technique of developing a common bond and common understand uh, while being teachable, open-minded, but showing mutual respect. And that is where you can come together, having the right people in the right roles around the table. And that's where diversity becomes very important, that you want to have people from different cultural backgrounds and different thought process and different technical skills and different behavioral skill sets. So you can have this healthy back and forth rather than everybody yesing the boss to death. It is important to go
Mm-hmm.
through that process in order to be able to come up with that vision. And that is something that is, again, often skipped.
Yes, and like you said, you have to be on the same level when you're talking to other people. Like you can't
Hmm.
make them feel like you're above them, that you ordering
Hmm.
to do something, because nobody would follow that. Like they have to
Yep.
feel that connection, and it first comes with you understanding their needs and looking from their eyes on what's happening. And really, like if you counter that language towards, that person, and everybody's different, and that will create a stronger bond with you and that other employee perhaps that you have. And also like people should feel safe in the workplace to come to
Hmm.
you to share with you, because we all have our own lives. And when you know that you could be vulnerable and just talking about what is it that you need, right, and somebody will listen to you, you feel seen, you feel appreciated, you feel like you want to be here. And then that will create even a stronger bond with another person, and it will help you for your own company success. So everything is like an investment. What you're doing while you're talking to other people, you're investing in growth of the company.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It is all these things are important as a complete picture, and it is something that it takes time, it takes effort on the team itself to be able to come up and be one. So I use the four key responsibilities for this. So as a leader, it is your responsibility to love the people that you lead. And love meaning the brotherly, sisterly kind of love. It means that you need to take time to get to know the people on a deeper level. Two
Mhm.
is you have to lead through context and not control. In other words, you have to lead through buy-in, get people to buy into what it is you want to do rather than telling them what to do. The third
Mhm.
component is you need to have psychological and physical safety. If people don't feel safe, you cannot have a winning environment.
Mhm.
And so it is exceptionally important. And the last one is to work with great focus. Too often we give people five, six, seven, eight things to do at the same time, and they don't, time management, prioritization, all that stuff, it becomes a conflict, and they cannot be successful. But if we laser focus on the one or two, maybe three things that are directly aligned to the North Star of the organization, whatever that may be, then people can be successful. So prioritization of the work is critically important to success.
Mm. Yeah, all of those components together, they work really like synergistically. And that's just something for us to consider because you can be a leader in different settings, not just work,
Mhm.
even like in your personal life
At home.
or at home, if you have kids, you're setting an example, right? So
Yeah.
everything starts with your behavior, your actions. It's not about what you're talking, it's about how you're behaving. That's what people follow and look at. So if you are this person, you will act this way. And it just shows other people who you are. That's all that is. If you agree with who you want to be, then you can continue doing this way. Or if you don't want to be that person, you have to change the way you behave. And it starts with your mindset.
Listen, everything I spoke about today is that you can never forget, or you should never forget, that you are a leader of self, right? So I don't care if you're at home or at work or anywhere in between, all these philosophies, all these actions I just talked about, you can deploy them in any phase of your life. These are go-to type action steps that will lead to better outcomes.
Yes, and I know about your passion of, flying planes and helicopters. So just if you can touch upon what inspired you to start that, and that would be interesting to know.
Sure, of course. Yes, that is a deep passion. It really started back in Holland when I was there.
Oh.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, you would have F-16 fighter jets doing joint exercises for NATO. And so as I heard them, I often looked at the skies and listened to them say, that needs to be me one day. Or I heard the ambulances go by and I said, I want to do that too. So obviously, I learned how to become a paramedic and how to become a healthcare provider first. But I never lost that thirst. So when 9/11 happened, I
Mm,
responded to that into New York City, and it was an eye-opening experience. In the sense that, listen, life is runnable, and if you have a passion, you better pursue it. So right at 9/11, right after that, I took flying lessons. So I got my private pilot's license. Now,
mm,
as I had kids, five of them, they became more expensive, of course, over the years. So I had
yeah.
to withdraw from that. But I also had a 5 year stint as working as a paramedic on a helicopter, as a flight paramedic. So I got to fly and do my aviation and healthcare at the same time, which was a great joy. And it wasn't
Mm,
until I got a little bit older that I said, listen, now it's time to go back and really pursue the passions.
right.
That I always wanted to learn to fly the helicopter and become a teacher. So actually, I just completed my helicopter journey as becoming a CFII flight instructor. I will be going back over the next couple of 3 months to be able to get my to get my same thing for my airplane. And then the goal is starting in the fall and over the next years to continue to do what I do today as the Dutch mentor by coaching and working with organizations, but also to open up a small flight school so I can exercise that passion of teaching the next generation of aviators, both in helicopters and airplanes, but also still work on leadership development of those emerging leaders and entrepreneurs who have this great vision, but not quite the tools or the skills, knowledge, and abilities to take their vision and make it operational and become all they want to be and reach their big dreams.
Yes, beautiful. And yeah, like hearing that, you decided that passion has to be pursued now, not later, because sometimes people, wait so long and it's, sometimes it's too late and they're looking back with regret that they didn't act upon what was really of joy to them. And we not promise tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen, but all you have is here and now. And if you are strongly pulled towards a certain hobby of yours or project that you want to start, it's never gonna be the right timing. The right timing was yesterday, next one is today. So you have to be kind of like all in and find time and create that time for yourself to pursue that, because that will give you that type of joy and fulfillment. And every one of us are here for a reason. We have our unique skills, abilities, right? And there is something that is a gift that you can share with other people. How can you serve other people in a way that is unique to you? And for you to find that out, you have to start acting upon what's really pulling you, why is that you want to act on that particular endeavor? So there is something to it for you to discover within yourself, really, right? So, and you have to ask yourself a question: oh, why am I so passionate about? What is it about it that I like? What is it that's very easy for me to do? And how can I apply those skills in serving others? So this is something for you to discover, but the thing is, you don't have to wait long enough, or sometimes, there is some kind of extreme circumstances happen in people's life where they wake up and they have like a second life to live, right? So you don't have to wait until then. And if there is something that requires your attention, you better start focusing on it as soon as possible for you to really like find that joy. And I believe it's important for each one of us.
Yeah, no doubt. So I give very simple directions to people. Dream big, act small, right? And often people we are limited by our own dreams. I just had just met a new mentee just before the podcast today, and I asked him about his big dream. And his dream was maybe one step up from where he was today. Well, if that's his big dream, that is truly his big dream, that's fine. But often, once talking to them, they have dreams way beyond that. But you have to think about it. Dream big, but then you have to take small action steps every day. The other thing is I would teach people the 4 Ps, right? It is about your heart level. You have to connect your purpose and passion. So that's understanding your why and what you want to do. And then it is about the people and process. So that's the choosing which employer do you want to work for? Do you want to work for yourself? And also understand that it's perfectly natural and normal to change that over your lifetime, right? I've had 3 pivots, right? I was a healthcare provider. I became an executive leader, and now I want to do something that pays it forward by teaching the next generation of leaders and teaching the next generation of aviators. Perfectly fine, perfectly aligned to my 4 Ps. But again, it goes back to what Elon said, is that I can do that, but have lead with much fear that I cannot do this. Well, stare fear in its face. Take meaningful actions while being also aware of the risk involved, right? But taking small steps. So people say, well, how are you going to open up a flight school? You need $3 million for that. Well, that's not true. I can start off with one flight school with a leased aircraft and just dedicating 2 hours a day or 4 hours a day, and I make that 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. Maybe I can bring on another instructor and have 2 airplanes, and maybe add a helicopter in the future. So the thing is that there are multiple ways of doing things. The key thing is not to lose, to forget about your dreams. And whatever you do, you got to do it with passion. Right, and that's the key to success.
Yes, and I love how we had that conversation today. So much great insight, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And for those who would like to connect with you online, how can they find you?
So simply go to the dutchmentor.com. You can find all of the programs that I offer, and in my weekly blog, where I usually have an article that I release on. And certainly join me on LinkedIn. Send me a connection request. I post just about every single day there, and that flows over to my Facebook and YouTube and all the other accounts that are connected to that. But again, lots of things I give away for free. But I also have to remind everybody is that you have to make an investment in yourself. I actually posted an article today about the return on investment, right? Simply spending $5,000 on a good coach and mentor over a 6 month or a year period of time, where you get to work with people on a weekly basis. If that even leads to a $10,000 return on investment by getting a raise in the current role that you're in, multiply that at 10 years, that $5,000 investment now is worth $350,000. But so many people are hesitant to make that investment. They go to Starbucks and pay $15 for the latte frappa, whatever it is, but not $15 a day. And that's all it would be in order to retain a good coach mentor that can help accelerate their career or to help accelerate the growth of a new company. So you have to be, you have to, if you truly want to reach your dreams and you want to accelerate in that, you have to make an investment in yourself. Yes, your bachelor's is good. Yes, even your master's is good or your doctorate degree, but none of those degrees will make you a highly effective leader, right? You need to work with people who have been there, done that, and work with them consistently over a period of time to help you across that valley of despair to get the outcomes that you desire. And I've seen time and time again, those who do accelerate, those who don't struggle. Some of you will make it, but many of you will never reach your dreams. And that's what I encourage people to really take the bull by the horn, take actions every day in order to get to wherever it is your big dream is going to lead you.
All right. Thank you so much. And I hope you
Thank you for the
enjoyed it.
invitation.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.